in the state of Oklahoma and collected almost $30 million. Jeffrey Epstein won Powerball. Okay, now, how'd that happen? Wasn't from Oklahoma. No one's ever explained how he won. The feds looked into it. No explanation. He just somehow collected almost $30 million from Powerball. Okay, now. So what's the lesson there? The lesson, and the reason it's funny, is because the system is rigged. And everyone knows it's rigged. And Epstein proves that it's rigged. And at some point, it was rigged, apparently, against Epstein. How do we know that? Well, because on July 6th, 2019, he was arrested at Teterboro Private Airport outside New York City on a flight from Paris. And he was charged with basically the same crimes he'd been charged with back in 2006 by the state of Florida. Now, you would think that that would be not allowed, double jeopardy. Well, the feds made the case. Well, those were state charges. These are federal charges, but he had a federal non-prosecution agreement. It's not a defense of Jeffrey Epstein, of course. It's merely noting the obvious, which is what the Justice Department did to Jeffrey Epstein in 2019 was very weird. And no one has ever explained why they did that. But what we do know is that a month and 3 days after he was arrested at Teterboro Airport, he was dead. And he was murdered. That's obvious. And it was never investigated. That's a fact. So what does that add up?
So like, how weird is that? Don't tell me that like a country as advanced as the United States of America, like you have someone assassinated while inside of prison or jail, whatever, and then like they can't find out who did that. I mean, I never heard that they found who did that. So y'all let me know in the chat. Like, did they ever find out who did that? Or did that just kind of get swept under the carpet?
Well, I don't know. Draw your own conclusions. Here you have a guy who's entangled with multiple intel agencies from a bunch of different countries, notably the United States and Israel, but also British intelligence, probably the French, the usual panoply. And he's running around the world as an arms dealer and a connector, and he's got some relationship to 9/11. What is that? And he wins Powerball. He's operating at the highest levels. He's not running anything, but he's operating at those levels, and he knows a lot. And one day, he is summoned back from Paris and arrested, and a month later, he's murdered. So it stands to reason that anyone involved in any of that probably had direct involvement in his murder. No one ever asked these questions. That's not considered interesting because it's not related to sex. But it may be a little bit closer to the heart of why this is such a touchy subject for this administration. Because keep in mind, Donald Trump was president in 2019. And it was his Attorney General Barr, the son, strangely, of the man who had given Jeffrey Epstein his first job teaching at the Dalton School and then helped get him a job at Bear Stearns and then launched him into whatever world he occupied until he was murdered, under the authority of Attorney General Barr. Kind of weird. Well, so weird that at very least it demands an explanation, which we've never received. In any case, probably not going to receive one anytime soon because the president who could explain it was remarkably touchy about the subject. Very, very touchy. And whenever it came up, and this was a shock to a lot of his supporters, he didn't just brush it off and say, oh yeah, we'll get to that after we fixed the economy and lowered gas prices and made it possible for your son to get a job. No, his response was, well, hysterical. Shut up! Anyone who asks about Epstein is not my supporter, and I don't want your support. He said that in a Truth Social post at the time, last summer. Look it up.
He did say that, yeah, he did.
And so for those of us who campaigned for Trump and voted for him and liked him, the first thought was, what is this? Isn't the whole point of your administration to drain the swamp? Isn't this why you got elected? So you could end this two-tiered system where some people get to molest kids and win Powerball in Oklahoma and everything's fine until they're murdered somehow, but no one can ever figure out how? And the rest of us who get arrested for having 3 beers and driving to 7-Eleven. Get arrested because you make a mistake on your tax form. Not all of us have Department of Justice ordered respite from federal audits. Some of us are subject to federal audits and know that we'll get them if we step out of line. So it would be nice, and again, this was the promise of the campaign and of the administration and the reason that some of us filed into church, though behind Miriam Adelson, on that cold morning a year and a half ago. Why would Donald Trump shut down any, not just investigation into, but any conversation about the guy who embodies the corruption he was elected to end. That thought has never left my mind, and probably the mind of a lot of other people. Was Trump involved in some weird sex thing? Probably not, actually. That might be better than the actual answer.
I don't know, man. I don't know if he was or wasn't. Like, I'm not going to say anything, but I just say, like, let's have the unredacted names and let's have some accountability. That's all. And let's investigate it, actually, and look into it at the very least.
And the actual answer may be that Donald Trump is covering up for exactly the people he was elected to expose. So that was the moment. Well, apparently, Thomas Massie didn't get the memo that is totally off limits. Talk about whatever you want. You can make fun of Kamala Harris's teeth, but you don't talk about Epstein.
Also, honestly, I don't know if you guys have looked at that, like that list, but I have. And let me just say that, like, if you search for DJT's name on there, it appears quite a number of times. And it's quite disturbing, the things that were being alleged against him. But that's like nothing is proven. It's just that for sure his name is there. And I hear them a lot of times saying, my name is not there. He keeps saying his name is not there. But actually, his name is there. His name is there, bro.
Because the whole point of the Republican Party is to make sure that we don't talk about Epstein. Isn't that right? Isn't that why he became a Republican? Thomas Massie didn't get the memo. And he started saying in his kind of autistic, forthright way, what about Epstein? I don't know about Epstein. And rather than just brush him off or blow him off or ignore him, Donald Trump fixated on him and began to hate Thomas Massie. And in a move that may reveal what the Epstein story is really about, he made common cause with some of his biggest donors. Those would include Paul Singer. Paul Singer, a liberal who is somehow one of the biggest donors in the Republican Party, and John Paulson, and of course, Miriam Adelson. And they colluded, in effect, to destroy Thomas Massie. Now, Thomas Massie, in addition to calling for more disclosure of the Epstein documents, which, by the way, belong to the citizens of the United States, they aren't the personal property of any federal bureaucrat. They belong to the people of the country.
I feel like, is it just me, or like did the Epstein thing just kind of go under the radar with the whole Iran thing? I think that like that has to do with that as well, right? Just to kind of distract people from that. But it's kind of crazy how we just moved on from that. Isn't it crazy how we just kind of moved on from that Epstein list right there? Because I mean, like Tucker said, like people have the right to know, right? Like it's not like as if they get to just decide, like we're gonna redact all the names, you know? Like no, like we the populace, we the people, like we want to see the names, and they should be bringing the names, like because at the end of the day, like they are here to serve us, so it's not theirs to keep. So I don't understand how the whole dynamics. I don't know where we got it wrong, but this whole thing where like now we're the ones serving, it's backwards.